Okay, thank you everyone and good evening. Thanks for attending tonight's discussion on Census 2020. My name is Mike Steffen. I'm the Director of State Relations, and I will be serving as MC this evening. We have some great speakers and panelists with us tonight who I'm sure have lots of information about the census that they'd like to share. But before we get to them, I just want to introduce our first group of speakers, then I'll explain what we'll be doing this evening and what Penn State is doing regarding Census 2020. So Penn State has created the UCount 2020 Complete Count Committee. Its mission is to ensure that all Penn State students here at UP and at Commonwealth campuses are counted in the census. Here locally, we are proud to have partnered with our local and county governments to ensure the best coordinated effort possible as we work towards making sure that every student and community member is counted. So let's turn focus then to why we are here. Thank you to Second Lady Gisele Fetterman for joining us tonight. Also, thank you to Wendy Vinhage from the United Way, Douglas Shantz from State College Borough, and Mariana Garcia, a student and PSU Lion Caucus president. There will be individuals walking around with microphones, so if anybody this evening has questions, please raise your hand and someone will bring a microphone down to you. There are also cue cards or 3x5 cards. If anybody would like to write down a question, we'll certainly collect them and then do our best to ensure that everybody's questions are asked. Lastly, we are being live streamed by CNET, and we will be also recycling that and airing it at different times as well. So let's begin our discussion. I would like to invite our Penn State University Provost Nick Jones to the podium to offer some remarks. He will be followed by Mike Pipe, and then State College Borough Mayor Ron Filippelli. Thank you, Provost Jones.
Thanks very much, Mike. I thought your introduction was heading towards, we have some very interesting speakers tonight, and we have the provost. Anyway, so good evening, everyone. It's great to be here, and it's a pleasure to join you all for this special event focused on the 2020 U.S. Census. Every Pennsylvanian counts. On behalf of the university, I want to take a moment to recognize several people and groups to thank them for their hard work and for being here with us tonight. I offer a special welcome and thank you to Pennsylvania Second Lady Gisele Fetterman and members of her team. It is an honor to welcome you to Penn State's University Park campus. Deputy Secretary of DCED, Rick Villello, is here. Rick. Also, thanks go out to Center County Commissioners Mike Pipe and Mark Higgins, State College Borough Mayor Ron Filippelli, and Bellefonte Mayor Tom Wilson, and thanks to them for their hard work and support, as well as all local elected officials and the census staff. Thank you for all that you do. Also, I wish to thank the entire Penn State Complete Count Committee, as well as Cherimi Young, Penn State's Director of Local Government and Community Relations, and Mike Steffen, our Director of State Relations, for leading this critical effort and organizing this event. Your work is making a difference. Thank you very much. The United States Census has been a cornerstone of our democracy since the first national count in 1790. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution and is conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau, a nonpartisan government agency. Participation is required by law. Simply put, the 2020 census is a count of every individual living in the United States as of April 1st, 2020. This year's census will be the 24th since the nation's founding and the first to allow individuals to respond by phone or online. Counting the country's population has broad importance, both politically and economically. The census results will determine the number of seats the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has in the U.S. House of Representatives. and how many people will represent local communities in the Pennsylvania House and Senate. The results will also affect how between $600 and $900 billion in federal, state, and local funding will be distributed, which will have specific impacts on Penn State students. Officials use census data to make decisions about financial allocations for Pell Grants, transit services, community mental health services, and much more. Penn State has a big role to play in the 2020 census, not just here, but also in communities throughout Pennsylvania where the university has campuses. Historically, college students have been an overlooked and difficult to count population, especially those who live off campus. In 2020, Penn State is committed to mitigating that challenge throughout Pennsylvania, where this university has tens of thousands of students who need to be counted. College students residing on a Penn State campus or near one for the majority of the year will be counted in those individual households. Town and gown relationships are integral to Penn State's success. The university has long been a true partner on projects large and small that benefit our communities. This project is a big one, and we are ready to deliver. We are Penn State, and we are excited to be collaborating on the census with officials and entities throughout the Commonwealth. Locally, Penn State University Park is already heavily involved with Center County, State College Borough, and Bellefonte officials, among others, to get the most complete and accurate student counts possible in 2020. The university is committed to doing the same in all the communities we serve, because every Pennsylvanian counts. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here this evening.
Good evening, everybody. On behalf of myself, Commissioner Higgins, who joins us here tonight, and Commissioner Dersham, we're excited to be a partner and collaborative entity when it comes to Census 2020. We're honored to be here tonight to hear the powerful and compelling journey and story of our second lady, Gisele Fetterman. We're honored to have her at Penn State and within Center County. Center County, in July of 2019, got census off with a bang. We passed 2 resolutions that support the goals and ideals that underlie the importance of Census 2020. We also wanted to recognize the many partnerships that were going to be necessary and vital in making sure that we have every individual who resides in Center County count. The Center County Complete Count Committee has coordinated with 3 other Complete Count committees within the county since last fall, namely the State College Area Complete Count Committee, the Bellefonte one, and also Penn State's Census 2020, UCount Complete Count Committee. And our county planning staff, who is joined here tonight, represented by Ray Stolinas and his great staff, has been integral to that effort and is dedicating much of their time to making sure every individual in Center County counts. We are reaching out to all areas of the county within the Center region and our rural areas as well, including Penns Valley, Bellefonte, Bald Eagle, Phillipsburg, Osceola, in many different areas, such as our county library system, our transportation office, our mental health and intellectual disabilities office, and also through economic development partnerships in our tourism bureau. We've established a website on our webpage for Census 2020 that's a landing page for any citizen and non-citizen to get information about making sure that they fill out the census. Our Complete Count Committees is coordinating, again, with many different entities within the county, and we have a partnership specialist that's establishing a list of our partner questionnaire assistance centers that are going to reach the hard-to-count populations within the county. And in particular, our transportation office is going to pilot a program where our Meals on Wheels volunteers, when they deliver the meals, are going to be delivering information on how to complete the census. We've also been working very closely with our adult service office to determine the group quarters in the transitional housing locations for many individuals within the county that are homeless. And we want to make sure that they're counted as well and their dignity is reflected in this upcoming census. So we're honored to be here tonight, and we thank you so much for the partnership that's exhibited here and throughout Center County. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ron Filippelli. I'm the mayor of State College Borough, and I'd certainly like to welcome Gisele Fetterman also to State College. While we are on the Penn State campus, we are also smack dab in the middle of the borough of State College. And I won't reiterate all of the reasons why we need to have a complete census. They've been articulated already. I think most of you know that, but I would remind you that for us, it is particularly important that we get the count, an accurate count of the student residents of our region and of our borough. State College population is roughly 42,000. 30,000 or so of those 42,000 are students. We need you to register here, not back home. It doesn't have any impact on the tax deductions of your parents, even though I know there are some people who are concerned about that. If you don't register here, we lose a certain amount of support from the federal government. Two programs in particular that are very important to us are the Housing Transitions and State College Community Land Trust, which are both engaged in trying to provide affordable housing in the borough of State College. And we use the funds that are generated through the census count to support those very, very important organizations. In addition, a great deal of our infrastructure work in the borough is funded also on these, on the census count. So I urge you, if you're a student particularly, or if you're someone who has contact with students, to encourage students to participate because they benefit from it, we all benefit from it. It's an extremely, extremely important activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Provost, all for your support and leadership and willingness to ensure that we do our best to have a complete count. So with that, we will move to our speakers, our panels, and to moderate that, we have Michael Gerber from the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. Michael.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you all for coming out here. I actually did not go to Penn State. I went to Bloomsburg University of Pennsylvania. And there were two ways that we really got students out to events like this at Bloomsburg. One was offering extra credit, and two was offering free food. Now here, I know at Penn State, neither of those were offered, so everyone's here just out of their civic responsibility, right? Their sense of civic responsibility. So I think we're gonna have a good crowd. Thank you for coming out. I know you're all busy, but we appreciate students coming out, administrators, faculty, folks from the community coming out to talk about why, to hear about why the census is so important and to hear from our four speakers today. As Mike mentioned, I'm with the Department of Community and Economic Development. So this is an executive agency under the Wolf administration, and the governor tasked our department with really being the lead agency for census outreach within the state. So we are working to coordinate with all the different agencies within the Wolf administration, as well as the legislature, grassroots organizations across the state as well. About a year ago, the governor created the Census 2020 Complete Count Commission, which over the past year has done incredible work, and all that is really ramping up now. And that's what brings us here today. So without further ado, you guys didn't come here to hear me talk. So if we can just start with Douglas, if all of our panelists just want to introduce themselves and your position and what you do at your organization.
I'm Douglas Shantz. I'm assistant to the manager at the Borough State College, and I oversee all the communications, marketing, public information resources for our community, but I also assist with policy development, implementation, process improvements with the local government. Or is everyone getting the feedback? Is that just me? let me hold it back. Maybe it's my loud voice. And so I've been integrally working with the State College Complete Count Committee with our Community Engagement Director, Kevin Kasabi, at another event from here, and a group of local organizations that have members part of our Complete Count Committee to help spread awareness and educate the public, and specifically help the hard-to-reach communities feel comfortable in taking the census.
Great, thank you.
So I'm Wendy Vinhage. I'm the Executive Director of the Center County United Way. And what we really do is we work with 28 nonprofits in the community to meet the needs of health, education, financial stability. So we work with all these programs to make sure that we can do that. We also offer grants that focus on women and children. So the census is really important because we have to work with our partner agencies, as we call them, to make sure we're getting the word out, that they understand the importance.
My name is Gisele Fetterman. I am the Second Lady of Pennsylvania, also known as SLOP. And I'm an access and equity advocate, also the brains of the operation, even though my husband is the Lieutenant Governor. And I am the Goodwill Ambassador for the census, and I'm going around and sharing my passion for the census as I go. So thank you all for being here. You could have been anywhere, but you're here. And I didn't go to Penn State, but I have a pin on.
Hi everybody, I'm Mariana Garcia. I lead an organization on campus called Lion Caucus. We work very closely with the Office of Government and Community Relations to connect with our elected officials, to advocate on issues that are important to students and that are important to our university, but also to educate students on policies that affect them. So the census is a prime example in that, and we've gotten to hear from several members of the Office of Government and Community Relations exactly what Penn State is doing to get the word out to students and to provide our own feedback for that.
Great. Thank you. So with that, I think we'll get into our questions. So the first question is for the slop herself. I think I can say that if she said it, right?
You can say it.
Okay, thank you. But can you talk a little bit about what brings you to State College here today and what you're doing on your tour across Pennsylvania?
Sure. So I'm traveling the state, visiting every part of regions of our state, but really concentrating on hard-to-count areas that historically have been undercounted, and really pushing the message on how important it is, and sharing a little bit of my story. I came to this country as a young immigrant. I was undocumented for almost 15 years. And, growing up as a young immigrant, it's easy to feel kind of invisible and feeling that you don't matter. And I share a story that when I left for school each morning, my mom would say, "I love you." She would give me a kiss. She would wish me a great day, and she would say, "Be invisible." And that's something I heard every single day of my life. So growing up and feeling truly invisible, as if I didn't count or matter, and being in a position now to say, I actually did matter as that child, as do all of you, and we need to count you, and there's power in counting you, and there are results in that. There's assistance in that. There is support in that. So really carrying that message across the state is what I have the honor of doing, and that's why I'm here with you all today. So thank you for having me.
Of course, and just as a follow-up to that, Gisele, so many people, especially immigrants, documented, undocumented, people who are ethnic minorities, they might have some trepidation about filling out the census. They might think that it can be used against them. What would you say to those people?
I understand. I thought that too. My mom always did it and felt very confident. And I remember being afraid back then. Back then I was afraid of every knock on the door because I thought that would take my family and send us back to a country we had fled. But I understand now the importance of it and how it's completely protected. Your information is anonymous. It's pulled together to provide results, but it's not specific to you. You matter and you count, and we need to know all the specifics, but it's not information that can be used against you in any way. It can only be used to support you.
Thank you. So the next question is for Mariana. So for most students here at Penn State, this might be the first time that they're filling out the census. Maybe their family did it before in the past in 2010, but this is really the first time that it's their responsibility to fill it out. In your opinion, why is it so important for students to participate in Census 2020? And what kind of benefits will it bring for students, both on campus and off campus?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, the services, especially the public services that we're talking about that are funded through counts like the census, are so important to us every day. And it's something that we may not realize, but it's things like getting on the CATA bus, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. Students have historically been, as a demographic, not counted as well as they should have. I think 40% of students or something like that have not been counted in the past. If we think about the strain that puts on our resources, it's really difficult to think about how we could get to work every day or get to class, something like that. Even more serious things like the hospital, the funding that we get that comes from counts like the census. So I would say to students, definitely to think about those services that we use every day, but even more things that we may feel that are a little bit far away from us, but the representation that we have in the state, in a Congress, as we've talked about, is crucial for things like Pell Grants, for things like mental health resources that we get for our communities. So it's really important for all of us to fill it out so we can continue to have an accessible education, an affordable education, and have those resources for mental health that we, all advocate for.
Great. Next question is for Wendy. Wendy, can you talk a little bit about the United Way's efforts to make sure everyone in Center County is counted? And has there been a specific population, subset of the population, a certain demographic that you've been targeting, and what's your experience been with that so far?
So as I mentioned before, we do work with 28 other partner agencies or nonprofits in Center County. So right now we're spreading the word to them because they really are hands-on with the clients they serve. And this is everyone from people with intellectual disabilities to mental health diagnoses, people who are in poverty or on the brink. Also, we have a lot, an international population that are served, especially with helping with their literacy skills. So we really work through those nonprofits to make sure that they are talking to those individuals. There's a trust issue, but these caseworkers who work one-on-one with these individuals are going to be much more successful with sending that message that this is really important for you to do, to fill out the census. As far as a demographic, I would say it's just everyone that we're serving. Now, we think about the center region, but there's also a large population that we're serving through the United Way who are in other areas like Phillipsburg, Snowshoe, Penns Valley, people that we really want to help who may be getting that misinformation about what it means to fill out the census and making sure that they understand how important it is that they do that.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned in your response the idea of having trusted voices in communities and the nonprofits being those trusted voices. Why is that so important?
Well, I think, and that's part of the reason why Gisele is even here to talk about having that trusted voice, because there is a lot of misinformation there, and it's scary. A lot of the people we support, like I mentioned, intellectual disabilities or might have a mental health concern, they may be scared or they've heard if you do this, you're going to get in trouble, retribution. So having that trusted voice, I mean, some of these caseworkers are really, in some cases, they are the only really trusted person they have, and there are a lot of really close relationships with the people we support and those nonprofits. So trust is very important. They're much more likely to trust someone they know.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Douglas, the 2020 census is, of course, run and managed through the U.S. Census Bureau. But across the state, I mentioned a little bit about what we're doing at the state level earlier, obviously at the municipal level. Municipalities across Pennsylvania are getting involved, doing their own outreach efforts, despite the fact that the census is run by the federal government. What do you see as the role of local governments, in these next couple months during census season?
Well, I think there's two roles, really. One is to be that trusted voice, to be that source of information. The community comes to us for various information and service uses. Whether it is for trash pickup, when's my trash pickup, they're coming to us for information. So they're already coming to us. So while we're providing that information, making sure that we get out factual and correct information and challenging that misinformation that's out there from the census. But the other side of it is, and to echo what Wendy said, is we work with a lot of services. We utilize those funds in a lot of various ways, and there's not always trust in government to be that resource. So as a local government and our Complete Count Committee, we've really taken the approach of don't trust us to say it, let's trust the people that you trust every day to provide those services. And so however we can facilitate that and get that information out there and best communicate with those hard to reach communities, our hard to reach residents, the residents that have mistrust, or even the residents that are misinformed, if we can do that with a trusted resource that might not be us, we want to provide the resources so that trusted source is able to do that.
Thank you. So this is a question actually for everybody, and I guess we can start at the end with Mariana. But what has been, in your view, the biggest challenge that you've faced as you've been talking to people about the census, doing outreach efforts? What has been the one thing that seems to be a hurdle that that's hardest to cross?
Well, I think it's really about finding the networks and the methods of communication that work for each specific population. So, and I think Penn State is doing a really great job at this of, on their Complete Count Committee, having student advisors, trusted leaders in the student communities to give feedback on marketing and things like that. Some students are receptive to things that a member of the community wouldn't be. We have different methods of communication. Maybe we're not as receptive to flyers, but more receptive to social media. So I think it's maybe a challenge for the people who are, working on getting the word out to really understand that perspective and find out how students communicate and what would best reach them. But I think as much student involvement as we can get in that process is really kind of decreasing that hurdle.
For me, it's been, finding something that connects with each person, kind of personalizing it. I think when I share numbers that really connect with a lot of people, the fact that it would be about $2,100 per person per year for 10 years, and those numbers are fixed and they can't change within that time. I think that connects with folks. Parents of young children, I talk about Head Start. Those funds impact Head Start. It impacts SNAP. It impacts fair housing. So I kind of cater it when I can to folks' specific needs, and that helps get them through those hurdles that they may be afraid of, or maybe this wasn't a priority before, but after that conversation, it quickly becomes a priority to them.
I think one of the challenges is that when we're talking to community or nonprofits in the community, because that's really my venue or avenue of getting to people, one of the challenges of getting there is that many of our nonprofits are working in helping people in crisis. So sometimes census isn't always front brain, but I think it's just an education. We just have to make sure that we're educating and making people aware. Census happens every 10 years, so we tend to forget about it except around this time of year, but just making sure that they're educated and they realize, like you said, the numbers, what an impact that truly makes.
And along with everything else, the misinformation that's out there is the fact that I think that this is probably the most controversial census we've ever been part of. There was the citizenship question, the whole controversy around that, to make sure that you get out the information that no, citizen status is not going to be asked. But there's a lot of people, whenever they think of the census right now, there's a lot of negative energy around it. And so trying to put the positive energy, trying to let them know how this really positively impacts your community and positively impacts both them as a resident and the county and the state as a whole.
And Gisele, have you been seeing that when you've been talking to especially immigrant communities? Has the misinformation that Douglas referred to, has that really seemed to permeate these communities? And is it a challenge for you to try to turn that ship around?
I thought I would see more of that. I really haven't seen a lot of it. I do have a lot of folks that say, I can't vote, so I can't complete the census.
Right.
Not even the citizenship question, just thinking that in order to complete the census, you have to be a voter or a resident or a citizen. And once you explain that, then they quickly understand. But I think it's something that hasn't been targeted to them in the past, and they have felt like kind of the invisible people.
Sure. And, it was interesting what you said before about how, the idea of what you went through of being invisible. A lot of immigrants today are probably, feeling that same thing, again, whether they're documented or undocumented. Is it accurate, do you think, to describe Census 2020 as almost an empowerment, a method of empowerment for those communities?
I mean, I share that there is a power in being counted, right? There is, if we know how many of us are here, that gives us some power. So I share that message, and I think that resonates. And I share my personal story, and I'm very vocal about it, and I've been very open about it, and I'm able to live in my truth and share it. And I think that has really helped to connect with folks, and not only immigrants, but anyone marginalized, anyone who's living in or below poverty, all the folks that fall into that kind of bubble of, maybe we don't matter. I think they really appreciate that they've the messaging has been towards them. I think that has really mattered.
Sure. Now, this might be a question for maybe either Wendy or Doug, or Douglas, excuse me, or possibly everybody up on stage. But for folks who are in their homes and maybe confused about how to fill out the census, or maybe reluctant to for any reason, are there going to be community locations in the borough or in this immediate area where people can go and receive help to fill out the census?
Yeah, currently we are actually planning some information booths, and then also and this goes to the same thing that Wendy said, is to go to already existing events, like not remake the wheel. Let's go to already events where there's hard to reach communities, whether it be senior living center to talk about it to the elderly, to go talk to students maybe that are living downtown that might not. They live here, they count here. Try to spread that message, but also going to other popular places around the community and having information booths, having volunteers at those booths that are well informed to help answer any questions so that people are comfortable, and then again to really encourage them to be counted and participate in this upcoming census.
Yeah, I second what Douglas said. Yeah, and I think that those locations are going to be posted.
Yeah, we're finalizing those here shortly. We just met with the Complete Count Committee a few weeks ago, and it's a collaborative effort, and I think that's what it goes out to. I work for the local government, but I don't know what's best for everyone in the community. That's why we put together the Complete Count Committee. So understanding the best place to locate those information booths so that we're able to make sure that the people are comfortable to come up and talk to us and to discuss and engage with us about the 2020 census.
Great. Mariana, have you found in your discussions with other students, does word seem to be spreading about the census? Do you find that when you're talking to people, just with that first conversation, do most people know the importance of it, or has that really been communicating that, educating people? Is that something that you found that you really need to start doing that more and more? And if so, kind of what else do you think you can do here at Penn State, and maybe that other universities across the state can do to help educate students about the census?
Yeah, definitely. I think the word is, still getting out. Those Complete Count committees are still really working on finding the best ways to advertise it. With students, sometimes doing things a little bit far out doesn't really work for us. We're last minute folks. But I think people know about the census. I think there is a little bit of confusion that we've already discussed on whether it's something that your parents back home can do for you, or whether it's something here. Students have a varied amount of living situations on campus, off campus, and those situations are treated differently. So I think really it's about getting out the dates, getting out what is going to be on the form, things like that, and depending on your living situation, how you're going to fill it out. Something that we're definitely working on, but like I said, we're getting closer to the time that we're going to do a really big push for it.
Thank you. This is I'll have this be an open question to whoever would like to answer. But I want to go back just quickly to the concept of the misinformation that's out there. There are news reports recently that people are receiving information at their house, mail, that looks like a census form, and they feel like they have to respond to it. When in reality, we all know that the census isn't actually information. The questionnaires aren't being mailed out yet. So whoever wants to tackle this, do you want to talk about the timeline that the U.S. Census Bureau is using in terms of when they're going to be mailing out the questionnaires, when people can respond, and that overall timeline?
That's me. About mid-March, everyone's going to get an invitation to take the census. The invitation is going to be and we have it posted on our census website, as in every other census website around here. I don't think ours is special above anyone else's, but there will be a official marked invitation. On that invitation, it will actually have the instructions for you to go ahead and fill out online. It has a specific ID, all of the information that you need. And then Census Day is April 1st. That is the day to be counted. Mm-hmm. And then after that, if you do not fill out the census, then about midway through April, end of April, there's going to be enumerators. Those are our census employees that will go around and ensure and help you fill out the census if the household did not complete it.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to know, because I think we talk a lot about April 1st as Census Day. But it's important not to have that misconstrued, because even if you don't fill out your form by April 1st, you can still fill out your form through April, through May. But then again, the earlier the better. So again, starting in mid-March, that's when that information is going to start getting mailed to households, and you can fill it out online, you can fill it out by phone, by mail, however you want to do it. But please know, if you're ever talking to people that they think, oh, I missed the deadline because it's April 15th right now, that's not the case. So again, I'm going to ask another question here, but just to reiterate, if anybody has any questions on note cards, if you want to flag somebody down, if you want to flag one of our student volunteers down, someone will be collecting it. We'll get to that at the end of the Q&A session.
I just have a comment, if you don't mind.
Yeah, do you mind if we actually hold it until the
I might have to leave.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Tom Wilson, Mayor of Belfast, and when you asked the question, what's our number one challenge with our complete count committees? And I was hoping someone would say apathy. And I think that's the umbrella challenge that we all face. All of the things that we're doing here are trying to break through the apathy that will come about for this initiative. I would say that if everyone who didn't fill out a census form, we were going to take $2,000 out of their pocket, that would break through the apathy. Unfortunately, we can't do that. But that's all I have to say. But apathy is our number one challenge, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's absolutely true. And there's been a lot that's been said here tonight about why it's important for students, why it's important for the different hard to count populations that we're trying to reach. But a question for everybody on the panel. If you would like the people here in attendance today to have one key takeaway, what would that be? Douglas, go ahead.
Well, I think the key takeaway is whatever you're passionate about, I'm sure there's federal dollars that we as the community are going to utilize to help handle that, whether it be mental health services, whether it be sustainability, whether it be affordable housing. I can keep rattling them off, that this directly impacts that, and that we really need you to be counted so that we can provide the services and the high level of services that we want to provide you.
I think that's really a great way to say it. It's really an easy way to get federal dollars. I think when you talk about the ways that your community is impacted without those, it is really important to make sure that, just make sure you're telling your neighbors and getting the word out. This is really important.
I would say, call 10 friends and have those friends call 10 friends and be that person. Like, I saw my mailman yesterday, and I was like, oh, and he's like, I don't want to hear about the census. Because everyone in my circle has heard about it and continues to normalize it, get people tired of it, and, you know, to be so familiar with it, so that when that paper comes in the mail, or when they're ready to go online, they're ready to complete it, and that's like a priority. They know that they need to do that right away. So I've become that person. I hope you all become those people too.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think about like the services that we're all using, like we talked about, that get those federal dollars, but if we're not counted, how overwhelmed they're going to be, how overwhelmed our hospitals, our transportation is going to be if they don't know how many of us are here. So we kind of need to make our voices heard. And it's always a challenge with students, whether it's voting, contacting your legislator. Sometimes we feel unseen, but definitely just keeping in mind that every service that we count on, we have an impact over how it gets funded. We have an impact on kind of how we benefit ourselves.
Thank you. One thing I want to add is that part of getting a complete count that's so critical for the U.S. Census Bureau in particular is recruiting people for temporary jobs with the census so that they can actually be census enumerators. We can do everything we can possibly do at our levels in terms of raising awareness and everything, but if we don't have enough people to actually go and knock on doors, go into these hard-to-count communities, we're not going to get a complete count. So job opportunities with the census are great paying. You can do it part-time, so even if you have a full-time job, it's something you can do after work, and every little bit helps. So for anybody who's interested in that, I would just encourage you to go to 2020census.gov/jobs. You can also go to the census table that's right outside the door here. They're more than happy to point you in the direction of more information, but that's a big challenge right now. We're talking about the challenges that we're facing. I think with the U.S. Census Bureau in particular, it's recruiting people in order to actually be enumerators. So I encourage you to consider that, and please feel free to get more info on that if you're interested. So it looks like there are some cards being passed around here. So right now I'm going to get this question, and then if anybody has any questions from the audience too, if you just want to raise your hand after this, we can certainly get a mic over to you and you can ask the panelists as well. So here's a question that says, doesn't look like it's for anyone in particular, so we'll just leave this open and whoever wants to take it. The easier we make the process, the more apt people are to participate. We all know that rural areas have poor to no internet or dial-up, even no cell phone service in a lot of cases. Has the committee considered providing hotspots in rural areas?
The 4.5 square miles that State College, the Borough State College sits in, I don't think anyone would consider rural, but that's one of the goals of our information booths that we will keep open is to encourage anyone. They don't have to be a State College resident. Anyone to come to one of the coffee shops downtown, to come to a bookstore, to come wherever we have these information booths, and if they need help filling it out or if they have questions, we're there as a resource for them. We're not going to check your State College address at the door. Anyone can come to those and get the assistance and the information they need to get counted.
Mm-hmm. Looks like we have another question from the. Oh, I'm sorry. Can we have a microphone for this young lady? Oh, right behind you.
Yes. I just wanted to know, is there an official cutoff date for census count takes, and if so, when would it be?
Does any of our census staff want to confirm? Is it the end of May? Can I get a thumbs up from Carol? What is the last day to respond to census? July 31st. Look at that, teamwork. That's what it's all about.
That's how we do it. So we have more of a comment here, but if anyone feels like they want to add to this, please do so. But someone in the audience mentioned that very few events affect every person in the county for the next 10 years. The census affects every person in the county for the next 10 years. We've said a lot about how important this is, but I think that does a good job of, we talk about presidential elections, those are every 4 years. But with the census in particular, if we don't get this right in 2020, we're not going to have the opportunity to correct it until 2030. So I don't know, does anyone else have anything that they want to add to that, or?
I feel like I've been talking a lot. This is not my event. But I think that just touches on the reasoning to have multiple messages. Is that something's going to reach someone. Every message is going to reach someone differently, and it's about breaking through and reaching out to them to help show the importance. And that's just another really, really good. Whether it be $2,000 out of your pocket, this isn't a monumental event for every 10 years. It's all about being creative in that messaging and making sure that we emphasize how important the census is to residents and really everyone.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, we have a question down there. And please let us know who you are too, if you want to say your name and if you're a student here. Or...
Yeah, thank you. My name is Maddie King. I'm a high schooler in the area. I work in the Office of Community Engagement. I actually was trying to meet with Douglas earlier in the day, but we just missed each other. My question is in regards to trust. We've spoken a little bit about community trust. I have a good number of friends who are ESL and recent immigrant population, specifically Guatemalan young men, and I'm concerned about their families not being counted. So I wanted to know, how can we make sure enumerators and those with temporary census jobs are members of a wide variety of racial and ethnic identities in order to accurately reflect the diversity we have here in Pennsylvania?
I think we can, for more information about that, we can probably connect you with one of the folks from the U.S. Census Bureau. But Mariana, do you want to come on?
But yeah, that's something that I'm definitely kind of interested in talking more about, is how we can especially draw upon our multilingual, multicultural populations on campus, which we have such a huge amount of. 1 in 10 of our students are international. Really challenge them to take the information, really the privilege that they have of knowing about this, of being so informed and taking leadership and maybe having a job like a census job and making someone else feel safe, because I know that's so important. We find that in every single community, that people who can speak the language, people who look like the person that they're talking to, really make people feel safer, especially around something that's civic or government, which can be scary to some people for good reason. So I think it's an amazing it's a really well-paying job. It's flexible, and I'm excited to really get the word out to students on how they can take advantage of those opportunities, not only for themselves, but to help others in our community.
Thank you.
And also, if you receive any benefits, they're not impacted by this job. So if you take the census job and if you're on benefits and you have that fear, it's not impacted at all. So that's another good factoid to share.
That's a great point. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Dan Murphy. I'm with the State College Borough Council, but I also work at the university, so I understand our student residents in really interesting ways. Knowing that the role of trusted individuals is so important, I want to kind of continue that theme, but a different angle. For so many of our students and our residents, the parents and family members are probably the ultimate trusted source when it comes to information. So we can educate our community, but depending on what they might be hearing from home, they could be receiving conflicting information. And so a two-part question, process and then impact. From a process standpoint, what conversations have we been having around empowering students with information to tell their parents what the accurate answer is to where they should complete the census? And then impact, what is the potential impact of double counting within Pennsylvania, or maybe a student counting themselves here, but their family counting them somewhere else? So I'm genuinely curious about what the impact of that could be.
I can tackle the first part of that question. I'm not so sure about the second. But I think I mean, it's definitely a struggle, but I think repetition is a huge thing, and getting people on all different levels. So having a flyer in this building, in the hub, telling you that you need to be counted here and not at home, and that your parents should not do it for you unless you commute, which is like a specific situation. And then just having someone in your organization tell you that. So having repetition kind of on different levels, different kinds of authority, and also it coming from your peers, which is really the student involvement part of it. Having student leaders take on that role is kind of how we hope to tackle that.
Yes, sir.
So I'm Prasenjit Mitra. I'm on the Ferguson Township Board, and I'm also a professor at the College of Information Sciences and Technology. And to sort of piggyback on the previous comment, when I've talked to students, what I've seen is that they say, oh, I'm here only for one more year, and I'm really from Pittsburgh. Or so there is this idea that it's better for me to be counted somewhere else. And we might say that, well, you should be counted here. But are there any ways in which we deal with that, along with the gentleman who left said that there is a certain sense of apathy? I think these two combined to have the students undercounted. What are we doing with respect to addressing some of these things?
I think and I've had these conversations as well. And the one point I like to touch on is that living here, counting here is very important, not only for the federal dollars, but it's districting, it's representatives, and that can impact them equally. That can impact them equally back in Allegheny County and Pittsburgh as it does here. And it's very important to make sure that we have not only fair representation federally, but at the state level, to make sure that that whenever we have these very colorful redistricting conversations, that there's data to back it up. And so I think just showing the importance, and again, in a multitude of different ways, it's not only just about the funding and getting the funding back to Allegheny County versus getting it in Center County. That's one asset of it, but the redistricting is also another huge elephant in the room that I think that we need to keep talking about.
And I just want to piggyback on that. I think another important point of this is that April 1st date that we were talking about, that's the reference date, that no matter where you're living on April 1st, wherever you're sleeping that night, that's where you should be counted. So a lot of it is also about promoting that message and letting students know just the process of how they should be counted and how they should fill out that form. Yes?
So my name's actually AJ. I'm a senior here at Penn State, and I'm the political action chair of Black Caucus. I got a lot of questions from some of my colleagues, as they know I'm here, but I'm just going to ask the main one. One of them asked, obviously, with the younger generation, we're really technology-based and tech-savvy. They were wondering if there was any way you could possibly see an app development for the census in the future. I know currently we have the website, but possibly a development of the app, and you answered my other question about me graduating and where to fill out, so it's just that one.
Would anyone like to tackle that question? Or I know we can, that's certainly a question that maybe the U.S. Census Bureau can tackle. I do know that this is the first year that being able to fill out your census form online has been something that's been available for folks. So I don't know if there are any plans this year for developing an app like that, but certainly, you'll be able to access it from your phone. Anywhere that you have internet access, you'll be able to fill out your census questionnaire.
Yeah, and the census entry form is mobile friendly. Whenever you get your census invitation, the website there will be accessible on various different screens, iPads, iPhones, Android, I don't know, any different size screen.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
I'm Joanne Tosti-Vasey. I'm president of Bellefonte Borough Council. One of the questions that was asked is how is the rural areas of the county being, and since this is being aired live, I thought I'd give a little bit of what's happening in the Bellefonte area because we're in the more rural section of town. Our Complete Count Committee is doing in 3 drop-in centers. One of them is at the Borough Building in Bellefonte from 8 a.m., 8:30 to 4 p.m., starting March 15th through April 30th. The Y in Bellefonte will also be having a drop-in center where people can help you fill out the census forms. And the Center County Library is also doing it on, I think it's Tuesday and Thursday evenings and then Saturday afternoons during that same time period. They are also sending out the bookmobile throughout the county to the more rural areas with information for the people who are concerned about filling out the census. They will not have internet access there, but they will help the people, if they get their paper version, fill them out. There's also, as Mike Pipe said earlier, assistance throughout other parts of the county. But I think whether you're in a rural area or a suburban area like State College, there will be assistance available. If you have questions, you can call each of the municipalities that have a complete counts committee, and they can help you out.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Yes.
My question is with regards to the students counting. I know that we're in State College and in Penn State, but in the other areas, is there a push for the parents and the families to learn, let your students count themselves where they are? So all of these students that are at Penn State are from other areas of the state. Is there a push for those parents and families to inform them, hey, don't count your student at home, allow them to count themselves at whatever school they're at?
Mariana, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I'm actually not sure, but I think it's definitely something that we could look into. I know we have really strong parent communities through like Facebook groups or things like that where you could definitely share some information, as well as alumni groups. So I think that's definitely a possibility. It might be something that we're working on, but I'm not sure. But I think there's definitely time to, kind of solve the problem of misinformation and go both ways, so that everyone kind of knows.
And I will piggyback off of that. I'm Sharima Young. I'm the chair of Penn State's Complete Count Committee, and we have a parents program and a director of that parents program. So we've been getting the word out to the parents of Penn State students so that we are really getting the message out to both students and parents. So we have our work cut out for us, but when parents come here, we do try to give them the literature as well as via email. So continue to look for that to come even more.
Great. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Hi, my name is Tim Balliet. I'm a staff member here at Penn State. I just wanted to comment on, particularly for students who are wondering, I should really be counted at home because I'm a senior or that's where I plan on living. The reality is you're standing for the students who will be here for the next 10 years. And if you're not counted, they won't be counted looking forward in the future as to those $2,000 that'll be here for the 4 to 10, or for hopefully not 10 unless you're a doctoral student, 4 to 5 years while you're a student here. So it's really important to look beyond just yourself immediately, but who you are as Penn State students and standing up for those students who will be here that follow you.
Question down here for the gentleman in front.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Hi, David Dulabon, another staff member here at Penn State, and a Ferguson Township resident. And I'm picking up some of the comments that Tim just made, Professor Mitra, Mayor Wilson, about the apathy. I could see how a student may say, well, I'm going to be graduating in May and moving back. But it really sounds, based on the wonderful statistics that the second lady provided and everyone on the panel, that it sounds like, and piggybacking on Tim's comments, it sounds like this is a really simple way to give back to a place that we love, Penn State and State College, simply by filling out the census form. Have you used that in any of the messaging that you have, and what do you think about that approach, perhaps.
I just want to say I really like that approach. And just like a quick exercise, just in this room, right? So I was a math major, so I'm just guessing this room. So given just the folks who are here, and you could see it's not a full audience, but given just you who are here, that's $200,000 per year times 10 years. So that's a good visual to kind of take, so you could do that at birthday parties. Look how many are here, that's a good exercise to do. And be creative. Like Valentine's Day just passed. I have 3 little kids. They went to school with Valentines and chocolates and a census card for their parents. So the parents probably all hate me, but, be creative. They're going to come home and have something to talk about.
This is why she's our Goodwill ambassador.
And one quick follow-up, and this is maybe more for the folks in Census itself, but we have our Census Day as April 1st. No joke, April 1st. But we have, as we know, Mariana, a lot of our students will be leaving the area come around May 8th for graduation or the end of the semester. And this is, again, maybe more of a question for Census about what are the enumerators maybe doing in that window, perhaps April, early May, to make sure our talented students who live in the borough and elsewhere are counted before they depart.
I think that just sheds light on the importance of awareness and education now. Not waiting till April 1st, not waiting till it's now, because now, based on the academic calendar and the cycle of when students are here, whenever, the majority of, or even half or majority of our residents are here in State College, is to begin that now. We are going to be kicking off some general outreach, some pointed outreach, whether it be to students or other populations, to help raise awareness now. Because if you wait any longer than right now, I agree completely. We're going to miss them.
Hi, my name's Nalini Krishnankuti, and I am a member of Governor Wolf's Advisory Commission on Asian Pacific American Affairs. And I had a question. I know in this university we have a very large international population in graduate students, undergraduate students, as well as postdoctoral fellows who, all of this entire group may not see themselves as living here very long. So I was wondering, especially in the student engagement group, do you have representatives from these groups participating with you, like the postdoctoral fellows, the grad students, international students? How do you get the message to that group?
Yeah, I'll actually defer to someone else on that question. I'm not sure of the entire representation on the committee, so I think Mike might be able to answer that.
So I believe the question was what level of different student groups do we have that are engaged in the process? So the answer to that is a wide variety of them. So we have graduate students, we have UPUA, we have CCSG, we have some of the minority caucuses as well, also represented in that group, and working with global programs as well to ensure that we have a diverse group of individuals out doing outreach, and also working with them to ensure that we are putting information out in different languages as well, so that folks have the opportunity to educate themselves in any language that they use as their first language.
Yeah, and harping on that resource, Global Programs is an incredible resource for international students here, and really like an authority on any kind of issue that they might be having, whether that be visa or paperwork that they need to fill out, like immunizations, anything like that. So it's really great. They have an entire kind of record of every international student that we have here. So that's actually a really great way that we've been able to communicate with the international student population.
Thank you. I do have a question from a card. This is a great question. This is for Gisele. What was the moment or life event that made you realize that census was important for undocumented immigrants?
I don't know. I don't think there was, I guess I wasn't like, I don't remember where I was sitting in that moment, you know? I don't know, at some point I realized like I mattered, right? Like at some point in this journey, it hit me on my own personal journey, and I think it's parallel to the census significance, at least to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, realizing that that we are part of this too, and we belong here too. So I don't know the exact moment, what I was wearing, where I was sitting, but I do remember the feeling, and I think that's what resonates with me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We do have another comment from a card here. We were talking about areas that people can go to in order to access, physical locations that people can go to access census resources. State representative offices in the county, all of them will be available to assist with census counting as well. So if anyone's looking for a place to go, an additional place to go, the office of your local state representative will certainly be a good opportunity to do that. Are there any other questions from the audience? Okay. Well, then, one last question for Gisele, our guest of honor tonight. So I believe you were in Erie last week. You're obviously, of course, in State College tonight. What's next?
I'll be in Philly tomorrow. So late tonight, but tomorrow.
And there'll be a few other stops on your tour as well.
Yes. So on Monday, I know I'll be in York. I'll be in Luzerne County. We're hitting all the counties. I want to go to every single one, but we're really concentrating on the harder to count. But we keep adding dates as folks reach out, and we continue to expand that.
Great.
So we'll hit every region of the state.
Your family loves the 67 county tours, huh?
We love this state. The whole state matters.
Absolutely, and it absolutely does. Let's thank our panelists for being here tonight. Thank you so much. If anybody has any additional questions, if you want more information about the census, you can go to pa.gov/census. That has information about the census, how to fill it out, resources available for organizations, posters, flyers, postcards, PowerPoint presentations that are made for you, digital toolkits, everything's on there, so please feel free to check that out and use it however you would like. Also, please get in touch with the U.S. Census Bureau workers that we have here tonight. Carol King and Richard Buck, thank you for being here. Thank you to our student volunteers for being here as well. Thank you. And let's just have one last round of applause for everybody coming out here tonight. Thank you, all of our panelists. All right. Thank you, everybody, and have a great night.